Shabbat Smart Hot Water Controller, Wiring and Piping Explained. This is a standard UK system where the cylinder is heated by a boiler. So here we can see the cylinder, hot water outlet, cold water inlet, flow and return from the boiler to the cylinder, a zone valve. This is a standard setup. For Shabbat setup, we add a pipe linking the hot water outlet to the cold water inlet with a mixing pump to allow us to mix the water in the tank when needed. We also add a relief valve off the hot water outlet. We add here a relief valve, which is a motorized relief valve, and a gate valve. The gate valve is to balance the water flowing through the relief valve. We make sure we put the non-return here on the bypass to make sure that cold water will not, when the pump is off, cold water will not bypass through the pump into the hot water outlet. This is the piping changes for the setup. Now we will look at the wiring of the setup. So we'll look at the Shabbat Smart Controller, and we'll start at the top where we have here the Shabbat weekday switch. A closed contact is in Shabbat mode, opened contact is weekday mode. It could be done with a simple on-off switch or with a Wi-Fi switch that we supply with a unit. The Wi-Fi switch that we currently supply with a unit is a Shelly Wi-Fi switch, which can be set up based on sunset times. So for example, to go into Shabbos mode 20 minutes before sunset, and out of Shabbos mode 72 minutes after sunset on Shabbos. We have temperature sensors. So of a standard setup, we have two temperature sensors, a pipe sensor and a tank sensor. And if we have multiple cylinders, we will add another sensor for the branch on the relevant wiring diagram. Power supply to power the board itself, a 9-volt power supply, which is supplied with the board. Here in the connection, we can see two terminal blocks, one for the power in, and there's a link internally for another one going out if we want to use it for items such as the kitchen LED, which we're using in this case. So now let's have a look at all the wiring connections. So we have a live and neutral coming in, where the neutral goes straight out and links to different items. The live goes through a fuse, 10 amp fuse, to protect the printings on the PCB where the relays are. So the live will go in through the fuse, come out, and then we will link it to any items we need, including where in the PCB. So we will have a look at all these connections. These relays, contactors, are normally open, normally closed contactors. So it can be used both ways. So the middle is a common, the right is a normally closed, the left is a normally open. Normally closed means when the relay is not energized, the inlet in the middle, the common, is linked, closed, linked to the right connection. When the relay is energized, it disconnects from the right one and connects the middle to the left, the normally open. That's why normally when there's no energy to the relay, it's a connection over here is open. So now we'll look at the different connections. We'll start from the left. The left one is a relief valve. So we can see over here, we have the live going into the common, and when the relay is energized, the live goes into a cable together with the neutral, comes out from the cable where the valve is, and energizes the valve to open and relieve some water. The mixing pump, same principle, live, permanent live, coming in the common, leaving it normally open, together with the neutral into the cable, and live and neutral and ground to the mixing pump. Next one is a Shabbos demand. So when the controller wants to switch on the heating on Shabbos, as we can see, we have live coming in, the live will go out, together with the neutral, to the zone valve. Through the cylinder start to the zone valve, the neutral goes directly from the cable. When the zone valve opens, it starts the boiler. The link over here will start the boiler. That's a volt-free contact. The mode switch for the weekday. So for the weekday we have a hot water timer, which the out of the hot water timer goes into the common on the mode switch. During the week, as this relay is not energized, it goes through the normally closed connection and starting the boiler the same way. So we can see over here, that's the weekday programmer. So we have the weekday programmer through here and the Shabbos demand through here, both going to the zone valve. This relay is here available for mains water booster set. If you have one in the property, we have a diagram. Please ask us for the diagram, and that will show how to connect the mains water booster so it's disabled on Shabbos and it only operates during the weekday. The wiring diagram will show it right over here in this area. Last connection on the output is the kitchen LED. When the controller is in Shabbos mode and the hot water in the tank is below Yad Soledis Boy, this relay will be energized. We supply the box with an LED, and the LED will illuminate. This LED should be installed in the kitchen. So we can see over here that the negative goes directly to the LED. The positive, the 9-volt positive, goes out through the common on this relay, and then when it's energized, through the normally open out to the LED. So these are the wiring diagrams and piping as we've seen. We'll just touch a few additional items on this controller. So we have rotary switches which set up the time of mixing and delay times. On Friday, this comes pre-configured from the factory, but if needed, it could be adjusted. We also have a pasteurization temperature setting. This controller can pasteurize the water after Shabbos, mainly important if you have multiple cylinders and one is dedicated for Shabbos. And this can set the pasteurization temperature between 50 and 70 degrees. We have dip switches, and those 4 dip switches will allow us to set a number of settings. The first setting will be dip switch number 1 and 2. That's to set the Yad Soledis Boy temperature, whether it's below 45, below 43, or below 40. Obviously, when we set the default is set below 45, which is Reb Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, it will not reach 45. We keep a few degrees below it in order to keep Harchoke from 45. Then we have another 2 dip switches. Dip switch number 4 will dictate Celsius or Fahrenheit, what is displayed on the screen. And dip switch number 3, as we can see over here, this is whether pasteurization is enabled or disabled. By default, it comes disabled, and you can flick the switch on to enable pasteurization. Every dip switch change requires a reset of power to the controller. So this is Shabbat Smart hot water controller wiring and piping. Thank you for watching.